Jake and Jeff, how are you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Welcome. Welcome to another
What if I had said, I'm terrible? That would have killed the whole momentum.
I'll take a time and talk about some things.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Well, great to be back with you guys. So welcome everyone to another episode of the Average Pastor Podcast. I'm Mark. I'm here with my friends, my pastor friends, Jeff and Jake, and we're talking about life.
What are we talking about?
I was like, we're talking. I didn't know how that sentence was going to end when I started it, so I just said life.
It's a broad topic.
It's a big world out there. There's a lot to talk about. I was at the store. We were doing some cell phone stuff, and the lady helping us, she put her phone down, and it was the cell phone store, and we were doing stuff on her. She had to unlock her phone or the iPad. I think it was the iPad, and she set it down, and it's like the screen, the home screen was this. It was a big green wall, and it just said F average, B legendary.
Wow.
And I was like, and I said to her, I'm like, wow, where did you get that? And she's like, you like it? I'm like, can you send it to me?
No,
I just said, that's amazing.
So she
said it to me.
She is under the assumption that you really like her screen.
Oh, totally. Yeah. That's how I got the picture. But there it is, Jake. Yeah, just be. And she's like, oh yeah, this is in my. I don't know if we need this in the show notes. It's just.
Yeah, we might leave that off.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Well, the F is not written out either. It's an F and then and an asterisk.
Oh, that's great.
And so so anyway,
we might get a podcast with the little E.
Oh, we could be explicit.
Explicit.
We might get more.
It is explicit.
We might get more listeners.
Explicit content. So I'm looking at this. Yeah. Good.
I just think like the world that is like be excellent. If you would have said, well, I'm average, she probably would have argued with you. No. You're exceptional.
You're special.
Yeah.
And then, well, if everybody's exceptional, that's the new average.
Totally. If everybody's legendary, there are no more legends. It's just, is that the paradox of everyone being legendary? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. My mind's racing right now.
Yeah.
On the layers of this.
Hey, legendary is the new average.
For some guys.
Everybody's legendary.
Yeah.
You were born legend. You just.
So there's that pressure. This is the whole thing. Like, why are we doing this podcast? We are. It's nonsense like that.
Pause. Why are we doing this?
We're both waiting. Wait, why are we
not knowing?
Listen, I know exactly
we
how
finally reached the end. We don't. I think it's over.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the screen just goes blank.
The title of this one is
come on, work with me. I can't hold this thought for very long.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I knew how this sentence was going to end.
Okay.
Like we're. That's the point of this podcast. We're doing this podcast to combat and fight nonsense like that. That is the okay, here it is. The pressure to be amazing. Mm-hmm. The pressure, and here's how, this is where I need a counseling session because here's an area where I'm feeling the pressure to be legendary as a pastor. I'm feeling the pressure to not be average and to be amazing, to be a great pastor, to be an amazing pastor.
Like seriously, you're feeling that pressure?
This is the context.
We really can help you with this. You come to the right place.
I just ask because like we can't tell.
Yes.
You know those podcasts where like people react to like they watch something. We ought to just do one just average pastor reactions, and we just like watch.
All right.
Sorry.
Here's the story.
Keep stretching. Keep
tough
reaching.
Crowd over here. this is a hard job. Would you like to try to host a podcast about nothing that you don't know what it's about and you don't know where it's? How would you like to do that?
You are
Seinfeld had
exceptional.
11 seasons on that, so that was
Yeah,
a show
That's
about
true.
nothing.
That's true.
How would you like to be me right now?
Oh,
Trying
wow.
to-
You do an exceptional job.
Yeah. Oh,
You're kind of average at being yourself.
Good.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I'm good. Here. Okay. So here's the story. So I'm sitting around, it's like I talking to another fellow pastor, and kind of swapping notes over just life, ministry, and then we talked about, Veritas, Iowa City, building the new auditorium, and it's church is growing, and it's like just talking about what God's doing in ministry. And I get this quote and I've been wrestling with this. I've been fighting with this quote. I've been resisting it. And this is less about the guy and more about just this idea. He says, Mark, you know that you have to scale this, right? Like your church is growing. You have to scale it. And you need to learn pressure's on. Like you got to scale this thing. And I'm like, Frodo, but I don't know how to scale this thing. And but then I was like, I don't know how to do it. It's like, I don't want to do that.
Well, what is meant by scale?
Okay, that's what I want to talk about. Is what is it about that word that I don't like? So I was in another conversation this week with
I hear that word. I have.
Do you have? Does that?
Well, I think of a scale as showing me numbers I don't want to see. That's what I'm like. When it comes to ministry, scale it. What do you mean?
He wants you to weigh it. That's it.
Jake doesn't like scales.
So on to the next topic. He doesn't want to talk about it.
But that's different than you need to scale your ministry.
Okay. I think, and that's what I'm trying to. That's what this episode is going to be. My existential crisis with
this one is.
Just this one. Just
my bad. I stopped.
We're really leaning in, Mark. We are. We're in there swinging. No, let us help you out.
Just this one. I like Jake taking some shots.
Totally.
Because someone recently was like, we didn't like that episode. We felt like you and Jeff were kind of teaming up on Jake.
I never feel that way.
You don't? Okay, good.
No.
So
wait, which one was it? I want to go listen to that again.
I don't. They felt bad for you because they felt like we were making
Jake.
fun. So this makes me feel better. Jake, keep it coming. Keep it coming. I am the cosmic joke. So here it is. The crisis is when I hear, maybe it's my word association with, or my association with the word scale. I'm talking to another buddy. He's thinking about this job, and he's like, this position, and one of the sales pitches for, and he's like a very exceptional person. Like he's qualified for this job and they want him. And he's like, yeah, the company they're trying to scale from a $500 million company to $700 to $1 million company. They're scaling to that. And so they want someone to help them with that. And so
you need to have a growth plan. Like, what are you going to do? Is that you need to scale that? Is that what it's meant?
So to accommodate for growth, what would you have to do to change things, alter things?
Yeah, you can't do church the way you've been doing it, and you've got to do it differently now. And I asked this brother, like, I feel like what you're saying, and where I struggle with scaling the church is it starts to feel like the church is a business. Like I'm a CEO who has to figure out how to expand the the growing business to make sure that we're, I don't know, just to grow it to it. It's God's church, and you gotta grow it. You gotta, make sure your assimilation processes, it starts to feel like I just started as a pastor who planted a church, and now I'm having to, move on to this pressure to be like more CEO. Pastoral ministry becomes just like assimilation processes and becomes more of a program that, and so it's the word scale to me, I hear scaling a company from 700 to 1 million. And what is that going to mean for the way that we now have to relate to employees and structures and systems? And, it just becomes like the pressure to be legendary, that as it grows, you can feel like, I don't like when at some point does it become something like, I don't even want to go to that church anymore. I don't want to, I start to feel that.
I do think there's how do you guard a culture through different size dynamics can be a challenge. But when you say like, I don't want to, how much, maybe to like go a Lord of the Rings quote, do you feel like when it comes to church growth, I wish this church growth would have never come to me.
Yeah.
And Gandalf saying, we don't
all of us wish that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to decide what you're going to do with what's been given to you. So is there an issue of stewardship of like, okay, for some reason, God is bringing people. What are you going to do with it? That might be stewardship might be different than scaling lens, but some overlap.
Okay, number one, I can't believe you just said that quote because I forgot to bring something out last episode. Teresa, before, she's like, "Hey, you brought Lord of the Rings. Did you see what we got, Jeff?" And this is the
we is James and Audrey.
Oh, James and Audrey got you this.
Did you have that made, James?
I found the print there's an Etsy shop that does these really cool prints of book quotes, and then we framed it. But,
wow.
It's really cool.
So the quote says, it's Frodo, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened." Gandalf, "So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that's given to us."
I mean, obviously the ring is representing evil and temptation,
power.
Yeah, power. Mm-hmm. There's overlap because we wrestle with this too. Marcy and I have talked. We're both like, we don't like big church. We don't like. I mean, we don't know everybody. Like, there's a certain selfish preferences that it's like, you're frustrated with the dynamic, but rather than complaining about what God has brought, how do you just like, okay, what do we do with this? Is where we're at. This is what God has done. And it's wonderful. And there's challenges, but it's wonderful. So how do you steward it well?
So then the question is, what does stewardship mean? What is the stewardship of a pastor of a growing church? Is it because
I have an opinion about.
I want to hear your opinion.
Well, this is where I think shepherding collides with business world of our day. Now, and preface, I think the church can learn a lot from leadership and organization, and so yes, but the object of a business is to grow, and and you might be tempted to say, well, the same thing for the church, but the church is called to make disciples, not just grow. And you're like, well, what's the difference? It's connected. I think stewarding something that's growing as a shepherd involves pruning. And I think the church often talks about church growth, and we don't talk about church shrinking. And when you look at the life of Jesus, there was times where he grew a crowd and there's times he shrunk a crowd. And we don't talk about shrinking a crowd. And should church growth look like this, where it's like you're strengthening the body through pruning for further growth. But when you never prune, you just get overgrown, and overgrowth is a problem. It chokes it out. So it was several years ago. Remember when we read the patient ferment of the early church? How were they so strong? Well, they had a really small front door, and it's like they grew like this, but it's like when you were in, you were solid. Like you knew doctrine, you were committed to the faith, so you withstood the temptation or the persecution that was surrounded it. And I think when the church just grows like this and there's no pruning, overgrowth is a problem that really chokes out, and a church isn't positioned to weather some of the challenges of the day. So I think part of stewarding growth is pruning.
So can you give me a practical example of what pruning is? What's an example of the crowd's going, okay, we need to prune the church? What is that?
Yeah. So John 15, when it talks about pruning, you cut away good things so that it's not repentance, because those branches are cut away and thrown into the fire. Pruning's cutting away things so that the most important things, the energy can go to grace. So, but he does address, if it's not bearing fruit, you do have to cut away the dead branches. That's part of it. So there's a sense of like, okay, and this is a tension. I don't have an answer to this, but what does it look like to be patient with people and process? And what does it look like to be, you're not bought, you profess to be a Christian, you don't engage, like you're done. We've talked about like Spurgeon's, they're excommunicating people monthly for attendance. I don't think we do anybody any favors by lowering the bar. So as the church grows, is there a bar or standard where you're holding people to that is going to be a John 6 moment where it's like your teaching is so like, I didn't sign up for that. And a lot of people left. And he looks at his disciples and he's like, are you going to leave too? So
could it be as practical as membership? Like going through your membership and saying, hey, yes, this person they don't give, they don't attend
We've started to say meaningful membership because it's like membership has to mean something. Like, are you giving? Are you attending? Are you
connected?
Serving? Yeah. Are you serving? Like, if not, then I think we need to challenge those people and may lead to some pruning.
I think the thing I resist most about even the idea or what's tacked on as the definition of the idea of scaling is adapting, changing in order to keep that growth curve going is back to what Jake's saying. I think that really misses the mark. Actually, we're to be by nature, I'm not talking in a political realm, like in a faith realm, conservative. We're to conserve, like how much of the New Testament epistles are hold on to sound doctrine, preserve it, hand it off carefully and safely and preach the word. It's way more not adapt and figure out how to scale. It's don't lose this precious stewardship that's been given. So I guess I'm just saying, like, I was even thinking about Grace Community Church where I was out in California. I don't think John MacArthur taught any differently in the early 70s compared to the last years before he passed away. Like, so there was change in the sense of they built a bigger building and they had to, so scale, if you mean scaling, like adapting facility and volunteers and how you do what you, well, of course, but that's more like, I think we were talking about a day or two ago, like, but that's more like a growing family. Right. That's just saying, oh, we've got more kids. We've got to add a bedroom or we've got to move. But that's not scaling in the sense of, okay, what do we have to do to change who we are in order to keep this trajectory? You know what I mean?
I think it was MacArthur that said, be concerned about the depth of your ministry and let God take care of the breadth of your ministry. But if that's your posture, like we're concerned about the depth of our ministry. In God's grace, He's widened our breadth. there is an aspect of scaling that's more than just we need more seats in the auditorium. I bet it does affect you structurally. It's like,
Sure.
oh, well, now we used to have 10 staff. Now we have 35.
Right. That's right.
How do we manage this? How do we scale it? What's the org chart?
Okay, so here's
But that's
where,
again more adapting. You know what I mean? Or whatever.
Okay,
I don't know.
Here's the part that I want to. My heart is. I was just, we did the staff day away, and we had some time to pray and process. And I was just thinking about this, like scaling. I'm like, Lord, my heart is. I want my love for you to grow. I want to multiply. I want just a heart that's growing. And in our church, I want a heart that's growing in awe of God, love of God, and it's coming out in a love for people. Like we're a community that loves each other. I'm like, Lord, I don't know how to scale that. I don't know how to scale. I'm like, I don't. I feel like, but that's what I want. And when I think about it applied to this, like to me, the way to kill this thing, like this thing, our friendship, and basically we're friends. We're not this podcast, we got mics on, but we could not do this podcast ever again. And it wouldn't change our friendship and why this is an overflow of something, and we don't want to lose friendship. So one way to kill it is like, okay, guys, we want to, I want to scale this friendship thing. Like I want to scale, and I'm leveraging, it can feel like I'm leveraging you guys to like build my friendship empire, and now we're, all of a sudden, once you feel like I'm not just a friend around a campfire, but I'm like, now I'm serving
means to something. Yeah.
I'm serving Mark's,
but I mean, the way you painted it sounds gross, but in reality, we have scaled it because we would get together every month at 10 Roosts on Wednesdays for whiskey and wings and talk. We didn't have microphones we joked this. Well, James comes along and he has skills that we don't have and puts this together. It's like, so that was a type of scaling that none of us could have done. And as church grew, different gifts were brought to the table, different capacities were possible.
But then there's something that's a great example, because I popped over to your house the other day on my way to a wrestling meet. We're just sitting around in your living room, and I'm like, that's what I love. It's just friendship, and I'm not texting you. I just show up at your door and I'm like, hey, come on in. You want something to eat? And it's like the thing that there's a danger in what we're doing because we could lose friendship amidst
if
scale.
Our only conversations are now recorded. It's like, when are we going to just get together and talk without a microphone? Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying is, maybe this is a microcosm of, that's a great example of something I don't want to lose. Like so the word scale, maybe why am I resisting it? Why not? And some of the context of that was another, conversation in that kind of, I'm trying to be vague, but it's like we're bringing this business executive in to teach us how to scale our ministry. That was another context. And I'm like, well,
I don't have as much of a reaction against scaling. I think we're on the same page in that if I think about it, stewardship, like, God's doing something, we're able to, like, that's a natural progression. And I think responsible stewardship. What I do have a reaction against is when somebody comes in with an ambition of scaling. Okay.
Right.
We're at 500. We need to get over 1,000. How are we going to do that? Let's do that. And it's like, no. You're worried about the breadth of your ministry. Don't worry about the depth of your ministry. And you know what? If people start coming, we're going to have to say, hey, we got to do something. We need more seats. So it's the ambition to scale versus the responsibility to do it when it's forced upon you.
And again, coming back to but conserving who we are.
Yeah.
Whatever we do to adapt, it can't change the core. We have to conserve the core of our mission of why God even
Right.
put us here. So we might need more staff, bigger building, more volunteer, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
whatever those adaptive
We're not gonna
portions are,
change
but-
to get, like the goal becomes growth.
right.
Yes, that's
Right,
yeah.
what I'm saying is in the business model. Like we want to get our company to a 700 or
Right,
to $1
right.
million. We want to scale it to that.
Right.
What we're saying is not if you say scale is in stewardship. Hey, how are you going to organize your staff to fight for that discipleship,
Yeah.
relational? You never want to lose the culture. If that's what we're talking about, that's great. But I know the subtext of that conversation because it's pastors who are like, and this is literally the example is like, yeah, how do I went and I asked, how do I get my church from 25,000 to 50,000? What's the barrier?
Right.
And I met with this leader and he's one of the only guys who's done it. And he told me the secret to get to 50,000. And then he said to all of us pastors, like, and see, all of you guys have a barrier that you as a leader need to break through that barrier. You because there's a barrier you hit when your church is 800 and you got to scale it so that you can grow to 15. And then once you get to 15 to 2,000, you got to scale it to get to, and I'm saying, I don't want, the goal for me is not.
Right. We wrestle with, because we've been in those conversations with some of those leaders, and for a while we've kind of hit what people call the 2,000 ceiling. Like it's hard to, because you have to think about how you go about ministry different. Now, if it's like, oh, well, we bumped into that to be a good steward, we might have to think about some structural things to do that. To me, that's different than we got to get here,
Right.
Where growth, and we're all have been a product a little bit of the seeker sensitive movement, where it's made growth the goal, and it kind of gave this Christian blessing because we're supposed to evangelize. But I think if churches started focusing more on the quality of disciples than the quantity of disciples, growth will happen. It'll take care of itself as God wants it. But if you're like, yeah, we're a church of 2,000, but we got our members wearing inappropriate Halloween costumes and we got, just chaos and nobody's really following Christ or knows their Bible, but we got a lot of people. That's kind of been the ambition.
But it's so easy to spiritualize the growth. It's so easy to put it used to be our goal was just, man, we love Jesus and each other. And man, I never want to lose that, to all of a sudden it can feel like you're, just the growth. Because I mean, it's why Lord of the Rings is the ongoing book. I think that's what we live in. The danger of power and the danger of growth, the danger
that
of
there
success,
are levers that you could pull to accomplish growth that have nothing to do with discipleship. The fact that, you know what I mean? That's maybe the thing that you're afraid of is, no, don't, like on the front end when you were saying, me and this pastor friend were swapping notes, I started chuckling to myself because I'm like, where are those notes that you were swapping? But because that's good. Like we don't, hand me those notes that are apart from just being true to what the church is, what Jesus defined as what the church ought to be. No, give me those levers I can pull. Give me those other things in order just to grow for the sake of growth. Now we can, again, spiritualize it. Well, it's more people coming to know Christ. Well, is it? Like, because God gave us all that we need for life and godliness and for the mission of the church. So what are all these business model levers that we
I think,
could suddenly
Jeff,
have at our access?
You've said this before. You've talked about the danger in a leader of an impulse toward dominion and demanding fealty.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Because I think that is the thing that I'm resisting is that kind of power over approach to, that's how, and I think pastors, it happens to them without them realizing it or knowing it, or it's all spiritualized as And I think that you're just like, because great leaders, they have a demand for expanding their
Right.
own little empire. And so
Yeah.
dominion and fealty.
Well,
what
the
do you mean by
dominion
that?
thing too is the appropriate dominion, God's dominion. Genesis 1, he would create, and the means by which he claimed ownership is he named it. I'm going to call that light. I'm going to call that darkness.
And
so
he would you say he gave that
and then gave that
stewardship to Adam?
Right. Totally gave
to
it. And so
name
gave Adam, right? So there's an appropriate dominion that we take ownership. But where it gets twisted is when Satan enters. And he's like, oh, I can give you dominion, but you don't have to go through the God kind of dominion. I want to just make you king. I want to make you like God. I want you to have dominion autonomous from the capital D dominion of God, right? Which happened all the way to the temptation of Jesus, right? I'll give you all these things. Put your stamp on it. So this is really subtle. And you're wearing a Veritas Youth shirt right now, but this is part of what I even worry about with swag and putting our name on things is because it's putting our name. There's a sense in which all we're doing is finding our family name kind of, but it can quickly pass over as our stamp, our dominion, you know what I'm saying? Like there's even a subtlety of this Christian leaders and organizations wanting to stamp their name that makes my skin crawl a little bit. You know what I mean? So I'm worried about, and then especially the individual leader that in order to keep his own brand solid has to kind of fight up. It's like in the Old Testament where a new king would kill off any other rival, right? Like I've got to clear the deck because I've got to preserve my specific leadership, And so I think we've got to, so things like plurality, like does a plurality of leadership continue? Maybe we adapt, even like you were saying, Jake, like, do you have a different number of elders, for instance, when you were a church of 300 versus 1,500 or something? But the essence of biblical plurality where one dude doesn't somehow, because I've heard that before, like, well, we used to have more plurality, but because of our growth, we had to go to more of a senior pastor model in order to accommodate. And I'm like, okay, now you're all of a sudden letting go of a biblical core essence of what the church is in order to facilitate growth. And that's where I'm like, oh no, you maybe have to do it differently, adapt, but you don't change.
And I think growth has become the idol. Growth has become the ambition. And I mean, to steal from the secular world leadership in a good way. I think the CEO of Chick-fil-A or whatever, early on, they'd have a slogan, better before bigger. So rather like, let's just start a lot of more stuff. It's like, no, if we just do it well, growth will come. But I think if we think, no, it's better before bigger, like let's focus on the quality of disciples. And if that hinders or slows our growth, great, fine. But I think we've shot at the wrong target.
Sometimes I love the word that you use, Jeff, fealty, because we don't use that word very often, but historically it's a feudal tenant's or vassal's sworn loyalty to a lord, or a formal acknowledgement of loyalty to a lord. Like, and that's why I like a formal acknowledgement of loyalty. Like, that is maybe what I resist is I don't want anyone's sworn loyalty to Veritas brand. Like, I mean, Ryan and the team are going to California. I don't want them to feel this, that they're a part of this Veritas brand, or so. They're like the loyalty that we have is just our friendship. Like, and it's that lording over, like, I need you to put our name on your website and make sure everyone knows that they're a part of this bigger average pastor
And at the top of that,
movement.
there's
And it's like that's not what we're doing. Like if we're ever anything other than just like some friends around a campfire or some friends in a living room, like if one of us all of a sudden starts to infect,
and I think
I'm the president of this organization. Like and you start to feel like I want to fight that.
Sure. And there's there's Veritas, Iowa City, Veritas, Cedar Rapids, Veritas, Dubuque, Veritas, Urbana,
Veritas, Santa Barbara.
But in every one of those cases, it's been like, hey, you don't have to call it.
Totally.
Like you do whatever you want. I think when someone's like, no, I want to be Veritas, says, I love this culture. I like to be associated with it. But other people, it's like, hey, we're going to start a Veritas. That hasn't been the approach.
Okay, so yes. So say someone comes in for, hey, we want to start a Veritas, and I think that's where it's
like we don't do that. We start churches.
Yeah.
So we do that,
right?
But if you would like to name it Veritas, and where we have that relational connection, and you like the association, and like, okay,
but that comes all the way back to that plurality thing, because I think letting everybody peek behind the curtain a little bit. So we had an all-day staff director time, and Mark, you felt like during one of the discussions you lost some character. You totally were pressing for something, and were when I say inappropriate, like you felt like you were exerting more opinion to sway than you were coming. Well, we ended up having a break, having lunch, came back. And before we could ever move on to anything else, Mark started the whole thing with, guys, I need to apologize. Here's exactly what I did. And you actually articulated and felt it even stronger, I think, than any of us in the room. But it was an example of what I'm talking about. Like you can't lord it over anybody else in that circle. You are conscience bound to say, yes, I might be leading. I'm the lead pastor. I'm willing to own that. But that doesn't diminish what true plurality, believing that everybody else in the circle is more important than myself. The character of a leader that serves and submits and follows and points everybody else to Christ and is the first to confess. When those are the things that start getting diminished, when all of a sudden there's a leader that's kind of insulated from the common virtue of being called out or being quick to confess. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those are the kind of things that you, at whatever level you adapt it, whatever, there's a different circle, but that essence of things is not lost.
Well, I told, yesterday I was watching, Lord of the Rings with my son. He's at home, sick with influenza A. It's going around, and, we were watching Lord of the Rings. We got to the end, and I just, every time I see the scene with Boromir, I think I am Boromir. It's and for those of you that don't know Lord of the Rings, it's like the whole thing is the ring of power, and everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. That's why it was given to the Hobbit Frodo to destroy it. Because only he could resist and he needed the help of his friends to do that. But at one point, Boromir, the strong warrior, great, incredible man, tries to get the ring, and in doing that gets people hurt, gets himself killed. And in that last scene, Aragorn, the king, the guy who's going to be the king, looks over, Boromir's dying, and he looks and he's like, Boromir, I did a terrible thing. I tried to take the ring. And he's got arrows in him and he's bleeding out, and he starts crying, and he's like, Aragorn, I would have served you, my captain, my king. And and he's kind of grieving, like it's all failed. It's all,
but he felt like it was a noble quest. No, he didn't want the ring in his mind. He was justifying wanting that ring. He
justified taking the whole time. Ring.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Kind of the way, again, well-intentioned, narcissistic people can wrap it in language
if Donald Trump has the ring, he's going to do bad things, or if this other political figure has the ring, he'll do bad things. But me as a pastor, if I get the ring, I'm going to scale this thing to. We're going to reach the U.S. and then we're going to go beyond, and then we're going to like.
Oh, it's for the gospel. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
what I'm saying is you forget like that desire for power. So Boromir's dying, he's bleeding out, and he's like, it's all gonna fail. And Aragorn's like, I will not let Minas Tirith fall. I will, save your people. And then it's that moment of like, I picture Jesus standing over me and my body's filled with arrows, like all the ways that my pride is hurt me or others. And that's a thing that when I hear the scale thing, probably I'm trying to resist the ring and saying, there's something different that I want.
What do you get? So I think that, yes, if your ambition is just, we're out for growth and we need to figure out, then that's not a good place to be. I think stewardship and responding to what God is doing, there's wisdom in that. But along those lines, I had a conversation with some of our younger guys on staff the other day about appropriate church size then. Because if growth can be, presents problems, maybe temptations, pride. They were interacting a little bit with Jonathan Lehman and 9 Marks and some of their approach to like, we do one service. Like their understanding of ecclesia and what a church is, that they would say even if you have 2 services, you have 2 churches. So you don't. Now we got into a fun conversation of just like, well, what determines that? Is it the size of their room or the capacity of their shepherding? Like if they had more land and they built more seats, would they just, or is it like, is there a size dynamic where, hey, even if we could manage all these people, I don't know if that's best and we should start another church. Like, is there a way that pastors should think about growth management that doesn't just involve getting bigger?
Yeah. Well, we intentionally built our auditorium smaller than what we probably could have. And some of that was the question of what is it we don't want to lose? And it's some level of intimacy. Now you could say, well, how do you create intimacy with 1,700 people? But yeah, well, in the churches that we visited, it did seem like, man, once you get over that 1,800 and the rows in the back and you need eye magnification and it like you start to lose those people watch the video screens and not the, it's felt like I'm going to this auditorium to watch TV, that's what we wanted to avoid. And so I think those are some questions about it. It starts with not like, how do we grow this thing? If we were like growth, we probably would have done bigger auditorium, but our goal is like, what is it we don't want to lose?
Sure. So in a sense, now I know 9 Marks or Capital, they have like an ecclesiology conviction there on what churches. But do you think outside of that churches should think about what their cap is?
Well, it's hard when it's like, because if the church is a family and it's a growing family and you got, I think of the whole, I think could you think of it as a couple that's like, oh, that's why we only have this many kids because we couldn't raise this many kids, is it similar to, would that be a similar parallel or?
Yeah. I mean, I in that Reformed pastor Baxter, this is a long time ago, even making the case, like, if you got to get more pastors then. If you have to shepherd the flock. So if you don't know everybody in your flock, then you need more pastors because everybody needs to be known to be shepherded. So he
said that.
Yeah, he would advocate like, okay, growing number of sheep need a growing number of shepherds.
Yeah.
So there is some, but how big can that, is there a place where it's like, hey, you're a church of 20,000. Now some are like, yeah, we're structured for it. We shepherd our people.
So
Or
that's
is
where
it just like you lose something.
my own issue and where the rebuke of maybe the intention of the guy I was talking to, I'll just assume and this is probably it, is like, Mark, relationship, like structure and organization doesn't have to be the enemy of relationship and friendship.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I have to get over, because I'm like, there is something I don't want to lose. So I was telling my son a parable to talk about a growing ministry that I was concerned about. I was like, okay, here's the challenge of a growing thing. So imagine this: you've got a physician. He graduates from University of Iowa, and he's like, man, I want to do health in this way. I'm going to start a little clinic. I'm going to hire a administrative assistant, and I'm going to start this little clinic. And I have a passion for to help people. And I'm not going to be focused on money. I don't care about insurance stuff. I'm just going to focus on health. And so this physician, he grows as, he's fumbling around in his, late 20s and 30s trying to be a physician, but he gets really good, and he's got 20 patients, and they love him. And they start telling everybody, like, this doctor has helped me so much. And so what happens? They bring their friends, and they invite their friends. And all of a sudden, this physician, now he's in his 40s, and he's got hundreds of people, and he can't manage it. So what does he do? Okay, he's got a decision to make. How do I scale this? Or do I want to scale it? Do I want to keep? How many patients can I actually have to not lose my mission? So if he's, he may decide, well, I want to multiply this thing. So I'm going to start another one over on this side. So as it grows, guess what happens? And then it's growing beyond the city, and now it's all over the state. Now it's all over and pretty soon he's got, say there's 20,000 patients that go to his clinic, and it's all, but they've lost, all of a sudden he starts hiring guys from the outside, and they lose the original thing that they had, which was a concern for health, because it became a concern for growth. And now you still have 20,000 people come in, but the 20 people that originally came are like, we don't go to that clinic anymore. They don't even care about your health. They're just,
sure,
they don't care about me. That's a parable of how I feel about the church. I'm like,
if that's a necessary outcome, but that's I think a faulty assumption, because it's also true that he could have continued to adapt, only trained and discipled doctors that would do what he does. Yes. And you know what I mean? So I think the fear of it has to degenerate if you grow, and it will degenerate into just a business model. I'm like, well, or not.
Right. There's a similar story. I think it's real, where somebody made some food product. I don't know, it was like bars or something, and just out of their home. And they were really good, and they were successful, and they wanted to expand, and somebody else bought their company. They sold, and we're going to get these in stores all over the place. And then that person saw their bars in a store and bought one and ate it. And it was like, this is not, and they called what happened? It's like, well, it didn't make sense to stay with the original recipe because it just not, our profit margin changed. So in order to make them at this much, we had to make some compromises. Well, there was compromise. So they lost in quality. If that hospital is like, we really want to know our patients. Well, the scale, okay, doctor-patient relationship is going to be a value of ours. That's going to be hard to maintain. That's a cultural value. But if you look at like a MacArthur or a Piper, where it's like, if they're saying, we're going to teach the truth, and it's not become like, we're going to have a proclamation value. Well, then it's like, all right, we're not changing our message, but people are coming to hear it. So we need more seats so more people can.
Because even within the medical community, and this is so outside of my wheelhouse. So
I love how you start.
Be ready,
medical community.
Yeah, be ready for some emails on this. But I would say Mayo is a great example of what the Mayo brothers set out to do in 18 whatever. for the most part, Mayo Clinic is known for a very clear mission and how they do it and how they team and da 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 da. Da. You know what I mean? That is distinct. Well, they've obviously, since its inception, they have grown extraordinarily, and it's an international.
And you can talk to other physicians who are part of hospitals that their focus is growth.
Totally.
And all of a sudden, they stop caring about their physician. They try to weasel their hours, pay them less, figure out how to.
So that's what I'm saying. You really have examples both within God's church and even in industry or whatever,
so,
where they've decided, oh no, we might grow or we might not, but the essence of who we are.
So let me give that's the key in the whole parable of the physician and his passion for health. And for me, the parable is a pastor and his passion to know Christ and to love his, spiritual health, I guess you could say, is for Veritas. We don't want to plant churches unless that physician, that pastor has been discipled. And I don't ever want to see a church with Veritas name on it or whatever that's like, I wouldn't go to that church. Or plan a church that's like, regardless if their name is Veritas or not, if it goes out of Veritas to send out a pastor that I would not want to be my pastor, that I would not want any of my kids to be like, oh, you should totally go be a part of that.
Right.
And that is the point of the parable, is like, to me.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to start another clinic, like, you better be sure that this person has been discipled.
Very clear on your DNA then. What is it that we're looking for?
What are we going to conserve with other adaptations take place?
And that's the thing with you and Cedar Rapids, like you and Marcy coming in. It's like, you and I are very different. Like, I don't want a clone of me, my personality, anything like that. But what you brought was clearly like, oh, this is an average pastor. Like, you guys.
That was very evident. Right.
Oh, here's what happened.
Maybe even have to shoot higher.
Because I still remember the conversation.
I wondered why you asked for my ACT scores right off.
What is that?
Is you were like, oh, Cedar Rapids, because you just said, you and Marcia, I still remember this. You were like, you were a little concerned about coming because you're like, I mean, Iowa City, cool. Like some wealth. It has kind of a cool vibe. And you're like, Marcy and I are more like Walmart people, and kind of worried about, like, if I'm moving my family to Veritas, because initially we were just one church, 2 locations, and we were, on elder team together, staff together. It wasn't like, you're going to be the pastor of this church, but we're going to be in this.
There's 2 types of people in this world: Target people and Walmart people.
Those are the only 2 types. You're one of the 2.
Iowa City is Target, Cedar Rapids is Walmart.
Quick tangent about Cedar Rapids. One of my favorite things. I don't know if they still do this at the conference, but like you have all the schools wave their flags or whatever. And one year I was there and I looked out
every year.
And there's a flag with the Quaker Oats logo on it. Just flying. I was like, there's the Cedar Rapids.
I love that so much.
It's so great.
The Quaker Oats factory that sends out the smells of, you never know what smell you're going to get in Cedar Rapids.
I hope they somehow found a way to put the smell on that flag. So when it waves around, people are like, oh man, dude, that's it.
Yeah. When it's Crunchberry Day in Cedar Rapids, that's a good.
But that goes back to worrying more about the quality of disciple than just the quantity of it. And if you're making devoted disciples that carry your DNA, it will grow. It may be at a different pace, but you look at Christ, it's like, you pick 12. I mean, that it was like, really, then you focused in on 3. I mean, when they replaced Judas, but they all died for the faith.
Right.
So it's like, I think worrying about the quality and the depth of the disciples we're making is what we need to recapture.
So can I related here's a question. This is something we were talking about this, and a friend was listening to, he kind of into this movement. It's a church movement. And and was talking about how much, oh yeah, this church movement, love it. And it's kind of concerning, he's into the podcast, into all the stuff. And I'm like, if I told you what it was, you'd be like, ooh, that makes me really nervous. It's not, you wouldn't say it's a full on cult, but you'd be like, but you'd be like, this is an uncomfortable.
It's on the way. It's on the way. Yeah.
Uncomfortable, like I have some concerns about that. And the comment was, he said, well, I just, eat the meat, spit out the bones. And I was like, totally. Yep. You have to discern through the things you're hearing and eat the meat, spit out the bones. We all do that. But then I started thinking, I'm like, but when is it drink the Kool-Aid, spit out the poison? Like, oh, I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, I spit out the poison. You're like, well, yeah, actually, you can't do that. You can't choose what you're ingesting and spitting out versus it's all just filling your mind and your thoughts in a way. And this person happens to, have influence over other people. And I have my concerns about, where they're leading.
That's why, Mark, that's why the leader is so important as he duplicates himself, right? Is because what Jesus said, this universal truth that Jesus as creator put into place is he that is perfectly trained will be like his teacher. So if you put a model of a head of a church movement, even what you're talking about, I don't know which one it is, but if the leader itself or the voices that are training and teaching something other than just pure gospel, pure biblical, that's what it's going to produce. Like don't say, oh, I'm aligned with it. Nah, eat the meat, spit out the bone. You're like, no, you will be like that. Jesus told us that whatever leader you associate with, whatever, you will be like them.
A student will be like
a student is going to be like his teacher. So you've got to pick well who you're going to follow, and don't.
Do you think that's the problem with like following celebrity pastors? Is you don't actually know them. Like that could be a if you're listening to this and we are your pastors, but you don't go to our church, like find a local church, right? Because you don't really know us, and it's like you can learn. I don't know if anyone can learn anything from this podcast, but like you need to be around a local. That's kind of my application of that too. 100%. Is like a local community.
And also, if you're just enamored with success, some of these movements that are led by people who are just successful and they're doing it and they're cranking it out and building their own church and starting a whole bunch of church, whatever. But you're like, he himself, there's something wrong at the top, but look at the success, the Mars Hill thing. You're like, no, you are selling your soul to be trained by that gut feeling you have is probably right. You need to attach yourself to those who you want to mimic, and don't be blinded by the success of it. And therefore think, oh, I can just spit out the bones.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there. Jake, do you have any kind of summarizing thoughts on my tension of
Mark's existential crisis?
Of my resistance to scale? What's just maybe an encouragement to me of how to, I don't know, how to think about it and how to.
I think there are right reasons to be concerned about that kind of talk. But there's also, if that's the ambition, then yeah, we should reject that. But if it's the response of stewarding what God has done, and that hasn't been our ambition, and we're not compromising our convictions in doing it, then I think we should, it's a part of ministry.
Mm-hmm. Cool. What's one thing you don't want to lose about your church culture that's as it grows or you want to hold on to?
Yeah. I mean, certainly, like, we'd never want to lose the truth. And we always want to teach the Bible, never shrink back from teaching the whole counsel of God in our culture. But on maybe a lesser scale, I just never want us to take ourselves too seriously, and walk with humility, care for people. Don't policy structure things to death where you're just not a family. And we talk about fighting for a family feel, and the bigger you get, the more it's a fight, but it's a fight worth fighting. And just to maintain that culture. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I was haunted a little bit from Luke 12, to whom much is given, much is also required. Like I thought a lot about that, because when Jesus talks about all that, it's in relation to Peter saying, are you talking to me? Or are you talking to all these other people around, And, well, Peter is one, and now to a lesser degree, we have been given much. Like Jesus has allowed us to steward much, know him more deep. We've spent hours and hours and hours over years growing to know him, and now leading others to know him. And so I just want to know, as far as scaling, that like my fear and kind of my gut wrench grows with my stewardship. You know what I mean? Like there's more at stake. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Like
to whom much is given, much is required. Lord, you've given us so much.
Yeah.
Help me to be faithful. Help me to.
I should be more afraid. I should throw up more. I should like that. I think success shouldn't lessen that and give me more freewheeling. I think I should feel the stewardship higher and greater. And
yes. Okay. That's it. That's so good that the much is required part, like we are not owners. We are servants of God and stewards of the mysteries of God.
Yeah.
We are like if we ever start to forget that we are going to be accountable.
Yeah. Yes.
We're going to stand before God.
That's the whole
if this
point of that
whole
passage,
thing was a Tower of Babel, with Jesus' name smeared over the top of it, that verse, I reread that because it's right before mine for this week. So, man, that's good. Jeff, I wonder if you could read us the closing kind of benediction of Hebrews, where he talks about the great shepherd of the sheep. And because I just feel like, we want to be good shepherds, but we know Jesus is the great shepherd of the sheep. So it's kind of
so beautiful
word.
By the way, I couldn't help but, as I'm looking to the passage you're talking about in that same chapters, where he's talking about, remember your leaders who have spoken God's word to you, as you carefully observe the outcome of their lives, imitate their faith. That should also put more of that weight of stewardship we were just talking about. Like, do you want people to mimic you? Do you want... That's our job, right? Like he's saying that to people who are following leaders, but the leaders should quake at that. Like, oh, you're asking people to follow your life as you follow Christ. And anyway, so that's all those last words of this epic book. But the benediction of Hebrews 13 is, now may the God of peace, who brought up from the dead our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the eternal covenant, equip you with everything good to do his will, working in us what is pleasing in his sight, through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, as we go, may the great shepherd of the sheep give you, if you've been listening, whatever you need, equip you for the things that God has for you, and continue on being our average selves, letting God get all the glory in whatever he does through average people like us. So hope you found some encouragement as you listened, or some way to spur you on in your faith and love for the Lord. So Jake and Jeff, it's been fun. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us.